I'm Clever Ghoul, but you can call me Nikki. Welcome back to the channel. This week I have a really easy Dollar Tree craft for you. Now Dollar Tree tends to have a lot of tinsel decorations, which I think are really fun, and I'm definitely pro tinsel, but also when looking at these, I just thought I could definitely elevate these and make them a little bit more fancy. At first I was thinking about wrapping cord around them or maybe paper macheing them, but then I thought about one of my favorite movies, Edward Scissorhands, and thought, what if I make little mini topiaries? So that's what we're doing this week. Now while I am calling this a Dollar Tree craft because we are taking Dollar Tree items and upgrading them, you will still need to stop at the craft store. But again, I cannot stress how easy this is. You really don't need to have any crafting skill in order to do this project. So with that being said, let's get into it. For materials, you'll need the following. These mini self-standing tinsel decorations from the Dollar Tree. I got a witch's hat, a ghost, and a jack-o'-lantern. Hot glue, moss. I used two different types of moss, a Spanish moss and then a spongier, brighter green moss chipboard, an X-Acto knife, and some leftover trash or butcher paper that you can use to fill the cavity of these little topiary pieces. You may also need some wire cutters as the tinsel itself is wrapped around wire and you don't want to ruin your scissors if you need to cut it off. And then any additional items you might want to add, like velvet ribbon, or if you want to add any charms or decoration to these. I left them pretty plain, but I think it could be fun to add some bones or some beads or some little extra elements in here. To start, well, you're gonna remove that tinsel. I found the witch's hat to be a little more difficult, so I ended up using wire cutters to snip a few places here just to get it going and remove the tinsel completely. But on both my ghost and my pumpkin later on, they were so easy to remove. I just flipped them over and found the excess tinsel piece at the bottom and just pulled it and was able to unravel on those pieces. Once you remove all the tinsel from your item, you're going to be left with this little plastic frame. I took a piece of chipboard, placed the witch's hat on top of it, and roughly traced the base of a hat. Then I took an X-Acto knife and carefully and slowly cut that out. In order to make sure the moss doesn't just fall through when I'm making this, I took some butcher paper, wadded it up, and shoved it inside of the hat. Once I added in all of the butcher paper, I took hot glue, put it around the base of the hat, and stuck it onto that chipboard circle that we just cut out. Now everything is ready to go. Now I don't want these topiaries to be completely lush and green. I want them to look like they're decaying a little bit, so I wanted the base to be Spanish moss. I would lay down a patch of glue, take a chunk of the Spanish moss, and press it into the hat. Now when I say that, please be very careful. I actually burned myself kind of badly this time. What you want to do is put the glue down, put the moss down, and maybe wait a minute or two. Depending on how long your glue gun's been on, you're going to want to wait a little longer. If you put your hand against it and it feels kind of warm but not too hot, you're good to go. Take your hand and press it into that base so that it flattens down. I've continued this same process around the entire hat, adding a base of Spanish moss everywhere before moving on to the greener, spongier moss. Once my entire hat was covered with Spanish moss, I noticed that some areas were sticking out a little bit, so I took some scissors and went around and just trimmed it down so it had more of a level and flat base before adding on the green moss. When adding in this green moss, I really just went with what felt right. I looked for any holes or patches in that first layer of moss. If anything was peeking through, I wanted to cover it up, but I just went about and put it where it felt right to me, just sporadically moving it around the hat so it didn't look too concentrated in one area or too bare in another, just getting that balance right for what felt right for me. Like I said, I wanted to keep these topiaries pretty minimal, but on the witch's hat and on the ghost, I added in some velvet ribbon details. Specifically on the witch's hat, I really like when they have a little ribbon around them to delineate the space. So I added a velvet ribbon around that base, using a little bit of hot glue to secure it down and lock it in place. I repeated this same exact process with the next two topiaries, removing any tinsel, putting trash into the base, putting a bottom on the base with chipboard, adding in that Spanish moss, and then adding in the green moss until I was completely done. If you wanted to add in some elements here, like some little bone pieces or little eyes or little different things, that could be really fun. But for me, I just kept it simple for this project. So now that we're all done, that means it's time for the reveal. I love how each of these turned out. They're so fun. I feel like Edward Scissorhands. I think moss makes everything better, and in this case, I think it really elevated these little tinsel decorations and made them look so upgraded and like something you would find at a nicer store than the Dollar Tree. Or you would find at maybe a Target or even, dare I say, somewhere like Pottery Barn or Anthropologie. Maybe that's a little bit of a stretch, but I think that they do add a different element of sophistication. And I think if you told someone they're from the Dollar Tree, they'd be surprised. Again, this is such an easy craft. And it's not even that time consuming. I think in total it took me about 2.5, 3 hours to do all 3 of these topiaries. Are you gonna make these at home? And if you are you gonna add more elements to them like charms, or are you gonna add different colors of moss? I'd really love to hear your ideas of how you would approach this project. So let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.